Hello my magic beach bums, I am Yomi. Welcome to today's teaching. Before I tell you today's story, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out when we upload new lessons. Today I am going to tell you a story, to teach you about the gift of suffering, and how you can use it to help someone else. No matter how difficult your life may be at times, there is always someone who needs you. When the giant tsunami struck the coast of Thailand, on the day after Christmas, in 2004, it caused a tragic level of suffering, never seen before. In total, 275,000 people were killed, in various countries along the Indian Ocean. In Thailand alone, almost 5,000 people lost their lives. On that day, as the realization of the degree of devastation began to reveal itself to the world, an old man lay alone, in a hospital bed in the Thai city of Phuket. He was gravely ill, after suffering a stroke. Although he was once a strong man, who had worked his entire life as a policeman, he was now incredibly weak. Much of the time, he did not even have the strength to speak more than a few words. His eyesight was failing him, and his time in this life would soon be done. As he lay drifting in and out of consciousness, he could hear the chaos of people rushing along the corridor, outside the closed door. Patients moaned, desperate families wailed, and the smell of blood and death floated, from room to room. As he lay there, a young nurse entered the room, closing the door behind her, to keep the pandemonium away from the old man. Although his eyesight was failing him, he recognized the familiar outline of her body, and could see her fatigue. Although exhausted, she spoke warmly and gently. "I am sure your son will soon be here." The old man turned his head towards the open door, and she felt his sadness. She continued, "I know it is a long time since you saw him, but he will come." The old man continued to stare towards the closed door as she spoke. "Sir, a child will always love its parents, and I am sure that whatever has happened in the past between you and your son, it will all be forgotten as soon as he sees his father." The old man turned his head away from her, his eyes moistened by sadness. As he closed his eyes, and the afternoon sun began to fade against his withered and pale skin, he fell into an old familiar dream. A memory he had relived so many times. In his dream, he was drunk and angry at his wife, and he again felt the sharp bite of shame, when he saw the fearful look in the eyes of the small boy who watched on in this uncomfortable memory. A few hours passed, and the old man began to wake from his slumber. As he did, he noticed a silhouette of a man looking at him through the scratched glass, in the closed door. The dying man wondered if this could be his son, or was it just another dream? The thought moved him to tears, and this did not go unnoticed by the young man, who was looking back at him. Out in the hellish corridor, the exhausted nurse was comforting a grieving family. As she said goodbye to them, her eyes lit up as she saw the sad young man standing outside the old man's room. She spoke. "Your father does not have long now, he will soon be gone. He will be so happy that you are here, because he did not think that you would come after all of these years. He has missed you so much, and has so many regrets. His dying wish is to make peace with you." Hearing her words, the young man felt so very sad. As he searched for a way to reply, the nurse opened the door, and nodded for the younger man to go into the room. As he entered, he was visibly shaken when he saw the condition of the old man. His death-like pallor and emaciated frame made it clear that the sick man's end was almost upon him. As the young man's eyes met those of the nurse, her kind smile soothed him. Now he approached the bed and, seeing an old wooden chair by the bedside, he sat down. The younger man was breathing heavily, and as his head fell onto his chest, his emotional struggle was clear to see. The nurse spoke to the elderly gentleman. "Sir, your son has arrived." Before the patient's eyelids opened, she had to repeat the phrase multiple times. Although the old man's vision was blurred, he extended his hand out to the young man standing by his bed. The younger man instinctively took the dying man's hand, and squeezed a message of love and support, as their fingers became entwined. As night fell, the young man sat in the dimly lit ward, holding the old man's hand, and he spoke to him with words of love and comfort. As the night progressed, the nurse would occasionally propose that the young man step aside and rest for a while, but he flatly refused. The young man was completely oblivious to the nurse, and the hospital's night noises, and the chaos outside the room. She would hear the young man utter a few soothing words now and again. Throughout the night, the dying man murmured nothing, and clung to his son's hand. As daylight approached, the old man's breathing became much more labored, and the pauses between breaths became longer and longer, until his chest fell for the final time. The old man died, as day finally broke. The young man let go of the now dead hand he was clutching, and went to inform the nurse that her patient had passed away. When he eventually found her, he saw that she was busy in the chaos of the hospital, and he watched her with great admiration. The building was incredibly busy. The corridors were lined with portable beds, holding the sick and dying. Distressed families stood by walls, plastered with photographs of the dead and injured, all desperately searching for signs of hope that their missing loved ones were here and alive. The young man felt their pain deeply, as if it were his own. When she saw the young man outside the room, she knew that the old man had died. She searched for words of comfort, but the young man spoke first. He asked her, "What was this old man's story?" The nurse was taken aback, and she responded, "But sir, you know the answer already. He was your father." The young man looked deeply into her eyes and replied, "No, he wasn't. I'd never seen him in my life before this last few hours." The nurse was very confused and replied, "But, if that is the case, why did you not say anything when I took you to him?" The man replied, "I realized there had been a mistake straight away, but I also knew he needed his son, and his son was not here." I could see the sadness in the old man's face. I stayed when I realized he was too sick to know whether or not I was his son. The nurse was astonished by what he was saying, and he continued, "Yesterday was a very painful and sad day for me. I came to the hospital to find a dear friend who had disappeared after the giant wave had come. An hour before I met you, I was given the news of my friend's sad demise. When I saw how hard you and your colleagues were working to cope with this tragedy, I knew that I could not simply wallow in my personal grief. I had to stay and be of use somehow. When you assumed that I was the old man's son, I knew that would be my chance to do something good for someone else." Now the nurse and the young man entered the room, and sat in silence, on either side of the old man's lifeless body. As they sat, listening to life outside the room, their eyes met, and they shared that precious moment. So now to you, my precious listener. Always remember that there is someone worse off than you. Your suffering is a gift, and every day is an opportunity to use it, to help ease the pain of someone else. Use its power well, and the next time that you feel someone needs you, be there for them. This is the meaning of our existence, put their needs before your own. On those days, when life offers you the priceless chance to help to ease the suffering of another human being, walk through the open door. Do this with willingness and kindness, and stay in the room, until night is past, and daylight has once again returned. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new teachings. Don't forget to check out the description for this video, because it includes some great links for you. Go make magic in your life and tell us about it in the comments. See you real soon right here at my magic beach.